Hi class. Okay, I'm gonna go through this and I'm gonna read the directions out loud and then do the answers on the paper so you can see how to work them out. On number 1, it asks you to write the angles in order from least to greatest. So remember, when you're looking at least to greatest, you find the shortest side, so in this case 40.5, and that will be across from your shortest angle. So the shortest angle will be angle R. Then your next shortest angle will be across from the 45, so that would be angle P. And the largest side would be across from the 57, so that's angle Q. On number 2, it wants you to write the sides in order from least to greatest. Well, if you notice on the triangle, we're missing the third side, or the third angle. So to find that, you're going to go 180 minus 90 minus 66, which would end up equaling 24 degrees. So your missing angle is 24. So your shortest angle, or your smallest angle, goes to the shortest side. So 24 is the smallest angle. So your smallest side would be SR. Then 66. So the next one would be ST. And 90 would be your largest angle, which is across from RT. When you come to number 3, you're going to be looking for the information to determine which one is bigger or if they're equal. So they want greater than, less than, or equal to. So if I look at A, they want QS and PS. Well, QS is this side, and it's across from either the 51 or the 75, depending on which triangle we're referencing from. PS is this bottom triangle, so PS is across from the 54, and since we're looking at the bottom triangle, QS would be across from the 75. That means QS would be bigger than PS. When you look at B, you have RS, which is right here. Well, we don't know this angle that it's across from, so we need to find that. So to do that, you're going to go 180 minus 78 minus 51, and that equals 51 degrees. So this missing angle is 51 degrees. When you then fill it in, RS would be across from the 51. PS, since now we're talking about the top triangle, well, PS would still be only on the bottom triangle, which is across from the 54. That means that PS is bigger than QS, because PS is across from 54 and RS is across from 51. When you go down to C and D, we're talking about angles. So when we're talking about angles, you got to go to the other triangle, in which they give you all the sides. So angle CBE would be this top angle right here, and it's across from the 7. Angle CEB is right here, and it's across from, oh, this should have a 5. So if I look, 7 is bigger than 5. That means CBE is bigger than CEB. On D, you have EBC, which is still this angle right here, and ECB, which is this angle right here. Well, this one's across from 7, and so is this one, so they would be equal. When you get to number 4, they ask you to, each set of expressions represents the length of the sides of a triangle. Find the range of possible values of n. When they ask you to find a range, this is the indicator that you're going to have 3 inequalities. And you have to remember that your inequalities say that 2 sides have to be bigger than the third side. So I'm going to take 2n plus 5, and I'm going to make it bigger than 7. That's one of my inequalities. Then I'm going to go 2n plus 7 has to be bigger than 5. And the last one would be that 7 plus 5 is bigger than 2n. So basically you got to combine it so that you have 2 different sides are bigger than that third side. And then what you have to do is solve each inequality. So I'm going to start with this first one. You're going to minus 5. So you get 2n is greater than 2. Divide by 2. N is greater than 1. On the second one, if you minus 7, you get 2n is greater than negative 2. Divide by 2, you get n is greater than negative 1. And the last one, 7 plus 5, would make 12 is greater than 2n. Divide by 2. So 6 is greater than n. Now on your test, if you get to this point, as long as I see all the inequalities, you will be fine. In this case, the negative would have nothing to do with the problem, because if you plug it back into 2n, you'd have a negative side length, which we can't have. So the technical answer would be that 1 has to be less than n, or bigger than, 1 has to be less than n, which is less than 6, because those are the two numbers that work. If you don't write the range part, if you don't write this last part right here, that is okay, as long as I see it in these answers right here. So when we go to 5, you're going to do the same thing. So on 5, you're going to have n plus 1 plus n plus 2 is greater than n plus 3. N plus 1 plus n plus 3 is greater than n plus 2. And then you're going to do n plus 2 plus n plus 3 is greater than n plus 1. So we have a little more solving to do on this one, but it's not impossible, so we're going to solve this guy out. N plus n would make 2n. 1 plus 2 would make 3. So then if I solve, I'm going to minus n. So I get n plus 3 is greater than 3. Minus 3, n is greater than 0. So then I go to the second one. I get 2n. 1 plus 3 would make 4. Greater than n plus 2. Minus n. I get n plus 4 is greater than 2. Minus 4. I get n is bigger than negative 2. Then I go to the third one. I get 2n. 2 plus 3 would make 5. Minus n. I get n plus 5 is greater than 1. Minus 5, n would be greater than negative 4. So on this one, we have a couple things you have to look at. First off, 0 would work because 0 still gives you side measurements. This one would be 1, 2, and 3. Negative 2 would not work because it would give you a negative side length, or it would give you a 0 side length, because negative 2 plus 2 would be 0. Negative 2 plus 1 would be negative 1. And negative 4 also would not work. So in this case, your answer is just n is greater than 0. But like I said, when it comes to this test, as long as I see the inequalities, if you don't quite make the decision, that's okay. We just got to make sure that the inequalities are there. So when I go to number 5, it says compare the given measures. So when I look at these, they're going to give me two triangles. And what I have to determine is which angle, if they're greater, less than, or equal to. So if I look at the first one, I have GHJ, which is this angle right here, and it's across from 10. The other one is KLM, so this angle right here, and it's across from the 11. So since this one has the bigger number, KLM would be bigger than GHJ. When you get to B, they are looking at sides. So TU is this side. It's across from 47. SV is this side. It's across from the 39. So because SV is across from 39 and TU is across from 47, TU would be bigger because it's across from the bigger angle. It's actually doing the same thing you did at the beginning, but now you just have for sure two triangles that you're paying attention to. When you look at number 6, it also wants you to compare using a less than, greater than, or equal to sign. So just make sure you're looking at the right angles. We have QRP, so this angle across from 5.1, and SRP, so SRP would be this angle, and it's across from 5.4. So that means SRP would be bigger because 5.4 is bigger than 5.1. When I do part B, I have QPR, so that's this angle, across from 8, and QRP, which is across from the 5.1. So this one, it's across from 8, would be bigger than the one that's across from 5.1. Then I have PSR, which would be this angle down at the bottom across from 8, and PQR, which is this top angle, also across from 8. So these two would be equal because they're across from the exact same number. When you get to number 7, sorry about that, they want you to find the value of x, give your answer in simplest radical form. If you're using one of the Casio calculators, it should always give you these in simplest radical form. So make sure you know how to use them. These are right triangles with two sides given, so that is where you're going to use your Pythagorean theorem. So you're going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now remember that A and B are the two sides that make the right angle, and C is the side across from the 90 or the hypotenuse. So when I look at A, I'm going to have 3 squared plus 9 squared equals C squared. So that's 9 plus 81 equals C squared. So 90 equals C squared. Square root both sides. You end up with 3 square roots of 10 as your answer for. You could use x instead of c because they used x's, I guess, but they mean the same thing. Okay. When you do these on your test, you'll probably get one where they give you a and b, and you'll probably get one where they give you one of the sides and the hypotenuse. So make sure you know which way to do it. So on B is a situation where they gave you a side and the hypotenuse. So I'm going to go 12 squared plus x squared equals 20 squared. So that's 144 equals 400 minus 144. You end up with x squared equal to 256. Square root both sides. X is just 16. Okay, so make sure you can set it up either way. So set it up where you know A and B, or set it up where you know maybe A and C or B and C. Remember, A and B, it doesn't really matter as long as you have the right two pieces of information in there to start with. When you get to number 8, they say tell if the measure can be a side length of a triangle, if so classified as acute, obtuse, or right. So remember, in order to be able to make a triangle, the two small sides have to add be bigger than the third side. Well, 7 plus 10 would be bigger than 12, so this will work. So remember, when we set this up, the bigger number is going to be the C. So I'm going to go 12 squared, and then I'm going to have 7 squared plus 10 squared. So this is 144. This is 49 plus 100. So if I look, a squared plus b squared added together is bigger than the hypotenuse squared. So this would be an acute triangle. Make sure you should have these in your notes. They're not on your definition sheet because it is the Pythagorean theorem that you need to know. So make sure that you understand what makes them acute, obtuse, or right. When you do B, 5.9 plus 6 would be bigger than 8.4, so this is also a yes. So 8.4 would be your C, 5.9 and 6 would be the A and B. If you type this into a calculator, it ends up being that 8.4 squared is smaller than these two put together, so it is another acute triangle. When you get to C, 11 plus 13 is of course going to be bigger than 7 square roots of 6. So when you look at this, and if you're not sure which one of those is the biggest number, type 7 square roots of 6 in the calculator and then hit the FD button to find the decimal. It should actually be bigger than 13. So square root of 6 is bigger than 2, so 7 times 2 would be 14, so it's bigger. So you're going to go 7 square roots of 6 squared, and you're going to have 11 squared plus 13 squared. 7 square roots of 6 squared would be 294. When you type that in a calculator, make sure you just put parentheses around the 7 square roots of 6 and then hit the squared button. So type it in exactly how you see it right there. This is 121 plus 169. So you get 294, and this adds to 290. So this is bigger. So this would make an obtuse triangle. And the other one that's not on here would be if they are equal. And remember, if they are equal, that makes a right triangle. So down below on number 9, you're still using the Pythagorean's theorem, but now you might have to use it more than once to find missing information. So we've talked about this before. They just want us to find the value of x on number 9. But if you see two numbers on a right triangle, automatically find the third side. So on this right triangle over here, I'm going to go 9 squared, and I'm going to just give this a y so that I know what letter it is, plus y squared equals 15 squared. So when I do this, I get 81. 15 squared is 225 minus 81 over. You get y squared equals 144. So y is 12. So I know that this little piece is 12. Well, if I know this is 12, then 25 minus 12 will give me this side right here, and that would be 13. Well, now I have another right triangle with a and b given. So I'm going to go 9 squared plus 13 squared equals x squared. So I have 81 plus 169. This would be 250. So if I square root both sides, I end up with 5 square roots of 10 for my answer for x. Okay, so you have to do two right triangles there. You use one to find the one piece, and then use that to help you to find the missing piece on the other one that you need to solve. So now I go down here to B. I have 7 and 2 given on this top right triangle. So I'm going to find this side right here. So I'm going to give that a y. So I'm going to go 2 squared plus y squared equals 7 squared. So this is 4 plus y squared equals 49. So if you minus 4, y squared equals 45. Square root both sides. Y would equal 3 square roots of 5. So that would be what this side is. So then if I look at this bottom right triangle, 5 is a side and 3 square roots of 5 would be the hypotenuse. So I'm going to go 5 squared plus x squared equals 3 square roots of 5 squared. So this would be 25. This one would end up being 45. Minus that over. You get x squared equals 20. And you're going to square root both sides. So your answer for this whole entire thing would be 2 square roots of 5. So it's very important that you understand you will be given 2 of these in which you have to do the Pythagorean theorem more than once. So make sure you always look for the triangle that has all the information, and then you answer any piece of that that is missing, and then you use that piece to find the answer that they're looking for. So you will be given one of each of those, okay? The point of them is not to make them super difficult. It's not to make them look crazy, but to understand that most of the time when you have to use Pythagorean's theorem, you're going to use it to find missing information. So it's not always a simple one triangle. Sometimes it's a combination of triangles. When you get to number 10, it says find the area and perimeter. Okay, well, first off, you probably need to remember that your area is A plus B plus C on a triangle. And your area is base times height divided by 2. Okay, so perimeter is all the sides added together. Area is base times height divided by 2. On both of these, I need to know this bottom side. So to do that, one nice perk is you have 2 side lengths that are the same. So that means these 2 measurements down here are going to be exactly the same. So once I find one, I actually have both. This makes a right triangle. So I'm just going to put an x with that. So I'm going to do 6 squared plus x squared equals 8 squared. So 36 plus x squared equals 64. Minus 36 over. You get x squared equals 28. So x equals 2 square roots of 7. So that's what this one is, which means that is what this one is. So this whole length on the bottom, you just go 2 plus 2, and you leave the square root of 7. Think of the square root of 7 kind of like an x. You can't put those together, you just put their front numbers together. So then, when I go to find perimeter, I'm going to go 8 plus 8, which is 16, plus 4 square roots of 7. And this label would just be units. Now I cannot add 6 and 14 together because 16 or I can't add 16 and 4 together because 16 does not have a square root involved. So you cannot combine them. So then I'm going to do area. And my area is base, which is 4 square roots of 7, times height, which is 6, divided by 2. So this would be 4 times 6, which is 24. Square roots of 7 over 2. Well, 24 divided by 2 would be 12 square roots of 7. And your label there would be units squared, or square units. Make sure on that one that you do leave them in radical form. You don't want to find decimals. Decimals are going to lead you to have some errors at the end there. The very last problem on 11, this is where your special triangles come in. Now you should have your special triangles drawn on a help sheet so you don't have to memorize the equations. You are going to be given one that's 45, 45, 90, and you're going to be given one that's 30, 60, 90. So you are going to need to use both. On A, they only want to know the hypotenuse. And this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which if they give me one of the legs, then the hypotenuse is simply the square root of 2 times that leg. Well, the leg is 5, so that means my answer is just 5 square roots of 2. Okay, when you come down here on the 30, 60, 90, they give me the hypotenuse. Well, the hypotenuse equals 2x. So if I divide by 2, x would equal 9. So 9 happens to be your short side. Remember, everything on a 30, 60, 90 is based off the short side. So it's 9. So then the long side is the square root of 3 times x. Well, x is 9. So that means y equals 9 square roots of 3. Okay, you should have those formulas all written down, so make sure they are there. That's the entire review. If there's a part of it that still is confusing to you or parts that don't make sense, by all means, please come in tomorrow morning and talk to me or send me an email so that I have an idea that you're going to come in to get some help. You can listen to this as many times as you need to. Try and understand it, but make sure you're ready to take your test tomorrow.